valued viewers. I hope you're all doing very well. Before we get started with today's content, just a quick note for myself. As far as I know, this is a YouTube exclusive as far as the subject matter is concerned. I did not find any other posted video covering this tragic accident from the Norfolk and Western Y5 2114. I also did not find it in a Google lookup, or it doesn't even have a Wikipedia page covering it as well. So as far as I know, this is an exclusive. And if I'm wrong about that, I apologize in advance and let me know in the comments below. Okay, so a quick synopsis of the event that had happened with Norfolk and Western Y5 2114 on August 23rd, 1950 at about 7:30 p.m. The locomotive was near Eastwood, Ohio, and the boiler suddenly exploded. The locomotive was traveling at an estimated 20 miles per hour. The engineer and the fireman were killed. There was also a tremendous amount of secondary loss of life that I'll explain later in the video. So in this next bit, there are two things of points of interest for you all to take note of. The first one is the train consisted of basically just 39 loaded and 7 empty cars and a caboose for a total of 1,964 tons. Now, the thing to note is this isn't a mile plus long train here. This is just a 46 overall car train, so it's not huge. And the largest rated tonnage pull on an eastbound run for this locomotive was 2,900 tons. As far as known, the engineer and the fireman were at their proper positions in the cab, and the head brakesman was seated in the brakeman's cupola. And that's the second point here to make, because in the Y5 setup, the brakeman's cupola was located on top of the water tank and at the rear of the coal space and not the caboose. And that little bit of information comes into play a little bit later in the video. Now, folks, I have to tell you that I am incredibly disappointed to read the maintenance request forms and the actions that were not taken by the Norfolk and Western outfit in Clare, Columbus, and Portsmouth, Ohio. This locomotive, absolutely with no excuses, should not have been on railways operating the way that it was that day that the boiler explosion occurred. And quite frankly, the events are eerily similar to the Allegheny 1642 at that, with the major difference between the two incidences being that the request for maintenance logs submitted by the 2114's engineers is over twice as long over various dates than that of the Allegheny 1642. You heard that right. 2 times or better more incidences with this locomotive over the Allegheny 1642. And furthermore, only one of the incidents reports submitted by the engineers was looked into by the Norfolk and Western maintenance people. It's just absurdly not acceptable. And once again, I am tremendously disappointed with the Norfolk and Western's response to this as far as the maintenance team goes in these 3 locations in Ohio. It's just awful. Alrighty, so just like the Allegheny 1642, the Y5 2114 had its last inspection and Class 3 repairs done at Portsmouth, Ohio on July 28th, 1950. At which time the boiler was washed. So basically, this means that the locomotive came out of maintenance and repair less than a month before the boiler explosion. So on August 1st, just a few days after the locomotive gets out of the shop, here come the engineer problem reports. Starting with August 1st at Clare, Ohio, the engineer requests that a renewal of the left water glass because the water is raising poorly. On that day, the engineer also requests that there are leaks in the water pump and check for leaks in the injector as well. The engineer further notes that the Portsmouth engine house was also notified of these problems, and the Norfolk and Western maintenance foreman approved it. Nothing was done. So we go to August 3rd at Clare, Ohio, and another report by an engineer asked to tighten the steam valve to the water pump. And that request was approved by the foreman and not looked into. At August 9th at Clare, Ohio, a report from the engineer says check the water pump. This works okay sometimes, and other times it will not work at all. Please check very carefully to find trouble, he asked. Once again, the report's approved by the foreman. Nothing's done. All right, so now we're on August 10th, and this one is something for you guys to note because it comes into play later as well in the video. And the engineer requests maintenance to check the water pump because the pump stops many times and it looks like it does not get proper lubrication. Now, this is important for later, so note this. And this is the only request that someone actually tried to do something about it. And it says the repairs were signed for by a machinist with this notation that he tested it out, checked and found the pump was getting sufficient oil, it runs good, and therefore I didn't have anything to fix. And of course, the foreman and maintenance approves this report. So on that same day, on August 10th, the engineer reports the injector will not take up water. And once again, the foreman repairs or approves the report and nothing's done. All right, so now we're on to August 12th at Clare, Ohio. And a maintenance request by the engineer asks that maintenance examine the injector because it does not supply water to the boiler. And just like just about every other incident, report approved by the foreman, nothing's done. On August 20th at Clare, Ohio, report by the engineer, oil water pump, very dry. We've heard that one before, now haven't we? Report, once again, approved by the foreman, nothing's done. And now we're on the day of the accident, August 23rd, 1950 at Clare, Ohio. And a report by the engineer says, examine water pump, it will not supply the boiler once again. Report, as you probably guessed, approved by foreman, nothing's done. Now, folks, I realize this is 1950 and all, you know, and in terms of employment are entirely different. But living as I do today in 2024, there is no way in God's green earth that I'm getting in that locomotive as an engineer and driving it. I would insist on a replacement locomotive or something, anything but getting me and my crew into that locomotive. Simply because with that kind of maintenance log not looked into by the maintenance department at Norfolk and Western, that locomotive was and most certainly turned out to be a ticking time bomb. So like any good soldier, the engineer and crew get in the locomotive and the freight gets underway. So as stated previously, the locomotive was traveling eastbound at about 20 miles an hour, and just outside of Stewartville, Ohio is where the boiler explosion occurred. So about a mile from the point where the boiler actually did explode, one of the witnesses was a fisherman, and he had stated that he was fishing under the one of the trestle bridges, which is about 40 feet in height and about a mile or so west of the point of explosion. He was underneath this bridge on the right side of the track on the eastbound side. And he said when the locomotive passed over him, he got showered with clear, cold water, like someone is using some kind of gardening hose or sprinkling hose. So then we circle back to the head brakesman report, which remember earlier in the video, he was sitting in his cupola, which in the Y5, once again, is on the water car near the coal tender. And he said at the point of the accident, the operation was normal in that he did not hear the low water alarm whistle going off. In other words, something happened so fast that a water alarm whistle, a low water alarm whistle did not go off. And just a little bit of a personal note, I have no doubt that the brakeman's eardrums had to have been blown out. I mean, the dude just might as well be hanging out next to a battleship's main armament while it's shooting off the guns, you know? It's that kind of an explosion. All right, so not only were the engineer and the firemen killed from this boiler explosion. But the first 3 cars of this consist of the Y5 2114 was loaded with hogs. Either they were on their way to the slaughterhouse to be processed, or they were a group of farmers made your purchase. Either way, these live hogs in the first 3 cars were all killed as a result of this accident. Now, I'm no vegan or animal activist, but I do care very deeply about the suffering of animals or people due to the negligence of other people. And I realize it's 1950 and no one cares about an animal, but in today's world, you can bet your bottom dollar that PETA is looking into this incident and looking for further charges against already the negligence by the Norfolk and Western Maintenance Department to begin with. Guys, let me know if I'm overreacting to all this in the comments below, but that's just me. I just cannot tolerate this kind of incompetent or lazy behavior out of any workplace. And of all railroad operations, this is coming out of the Norfolk and Western, a company renowned for safety and reliability and good workplace environments, etc., etc., etc. But one thing's for darn sure, these Norfolk and Western Ohio maintenance facilities weren't doing anything safely, and their inactivity to solve these problems with this locomotive cost the lives of 2 human beings and several hundred heads of livestock, in this case hogs. So the only definitive cause of the accident was obviously the exposure of the crown sheet, which caused the boiler explosion. In the Norfolk and Western Y5 class, basically a minimum water level above the crown sheet is 5 inches. The demarcation line that was found during the investigative part was 4 inches below the crown sheet, which again to me indicates that something rapidly happened with the water system for all this to happen. And furthermore, the low water alarm wasn't going off, so that's to me is another indication that something very quickly happened to cause this explosion. So let me know in the comments below what you think caused this rapid expulsion of water and boiler explosion to happen the way that it did. My theory is, especially since this class of locomotive appears to only have 1 injector and no backup, so my theory is basically this water pump that was appeared to have oil problems probably began to seize up or seized up suddenly, caused a back pressure in the main water feed hoses and burst one of the hoses, which is what showered this fisherman down below as the train passed over on the bridge, which in my theory meant that the boiler cooked off what water it had rather rapidly and caused a sudden explosion. So sudden that the low water alarm never went off. So again, let me know in the comments below what your theory is as to the cause of this accident, but that's my theory. So with that, I'll wrap up this video and I'll end it by saying thank you very much for watching the video, and subscribe to my profile if you haven't already. Hit the like button, and as always, comments are welcome below. I try to answer every comment that you all make, and visit my print shop at Nickel Plate Limited on Etsy.com. Thank you very much.